So apparently, some people are not too happy with Anderson Cooper's performance during the Kamala Harris CNN town hall. And some of those people just happen to be Charlemagne the God and Angela Rye. They seem to feel as though Anderson Cooper was too hard on Kamala Harris. And meanwhile, I'm sitting back there and I'm thinking to myself, like, I was glad to see Anderson Cooper actually ask some hard questions to someone who's a member of his own party, because that's usually not the way that this works. But Charlemagne the God is not happy about that. And he told Anderson Cooper he wasn't happy about it to his face. Let's go ahead and bring this clip in here.
Again, Vice President Harris, former President Obama sharing the stage earlier tonight in Georgia, their first campaign event together with 12 days until Election Day. And at one point, the former president shared this message with the crowd.
Look, politics, it's not going to solve all your problems. No president is going to eliminate poverty in one term or eliminate racism, because those problems are hard.
No, they're not.
It takes steps, a little bit at a time.
Joining us now, radio host Charlemagne the God. His latest book is Get Honest or Die Lying. He's also founder of the Black Effect Podcast Network. Also with us, Angela.
Yeah, he really took a similar phrase from a 50 Cent album, which is Get Rich or Die Trying, and made the title of his book Get Honest or Die Lying. And he's not even honest. So what is Charlemagne talking about?
Rye, co-host of the podcast Native Land Pod. Charlemagne, you did a great interview with Vice President Harris last week.
Thank you. You did a great one last
night. In that, you talked about former President Obama, and it was one of the first it was the first day he was kind of out, and you said he was out there last week waving his finger at black men. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, in the comments, it seemed like he did not do that in the comments now. He doesn't seem to have done that again. Do you think he went too far with that? Because you were asking Harris about it as if maybe there was something not great about that.
Yeah, I didn't like it simply because, black men were always the second largest voting bloc, behind black women when it comes to Democrats. And, when you look at 2016 and 2020, 52% of white women, voted for Donald Trump in 2016, 55% of white women voted for Donald Trump in 2020. So I feel like, the Liz Cheneys and the Hillary Clintons, they need to be out there waving their finger at white women and telling them, hey, don't vote against your interests again in 2024. So that's why I didn't necessarily care.
And nobody criticizes them for not wagging their finger.
Yeah, and not only does nobody criticize them for not wagging their finger, nobody ever says, hey, black men, thank you for always showing up for us, So it's like, I don't understand why they're trying to make black men the scapegoat in 2024.
What did you think after interviewing Harris, and what do you think she needs to do in the next 12 days?
I think she needs to continue, saying that message that President Obama was saying just now. Like, I think that you don't have to promise the world to people. People just want to know that they have individuals who are in office who actually care about them, who actually.
So let's go ahead and stop the conversation right there and interject here. This is coming from someone who's a millionaire. So let's just remember that. Millionaire. Charlemagne the God is a millionaire. And he's telling you that people don't want someone to come in and change things for them and make things better for them. They just want to know that someone's there that cares. Speak for yourself, Char. Speak for yourself. I'm pretty sure people that I've spoken to and people who have called into your radio show, which I've heard myself, have made it very clear that they're tired of the grocery prices, that they're tired of money going out the door to Ukraine, going out the door to Israel. If you get on the street and talk to everyday average Americans, they will let you know they want more than just someone there who cares for them. You know who doesn't care about that? You know who doesn't care to have someone in there who's going to change their lives? People who have money. People like Charlemagne the God, millionaires, billionaires. These people, they don't care. They really don't. They're ready to vote for vibes. The people who don't have tremendous amount of debt are okay with voting for vibes. The people who don't have to struggle paycheck to paycheck are okay voting for vibes. But the average American who is living paycheck to paycheck wants something done. This is the reason why some people who have voted for Barack Obama turned around and voted for Donald Trump. Because Barack Obama ran on a lot of these things, but once he won, he didn't do anything. I was talking to my dad about this earlier today. My dad was like, "Can you do anything?" And then no. He's just like the people who came before him. So CNN will bring on people like Charlemagne the God, and Angela Rye. These are wealthy people. They're okay with vibes. They're okay with Kamala Harris because they don't need anything. They just told you he just put out another book. So you don't get to speak for everyday working Americans, Charlemagne. You, Angela Rye, Jamil Hill, all you millionaires, you don't get to speak for the rest of us.
We have empathy for them and who are trying to make their lives, just a little bit better at a time. Because like President Obama said, they're not going to eliminate poverty. They're not going to, destroy systemic racism within us.
I don't think that's a selling point for Kamala Harris's campaign. I don't think it's a good idea to get up there and tell people, yeah, we're not going to eliminate poverty, but we can give money to Ukraine. We're not going to eliminate poverty, but we can give $3.8 billion a year to Israel, regardless if they're attacking somebody or not. But we're not going to try to eliminate poverty. That's not a good selling point. Like, I don't know how many times I have to say this to people, but just running on "I'm not Donald Trump," that's not enough anymore. That's not enough. And even if you go back and you look back at 2020 and you look at Pennsylvania and you look at Georgia, those were narrow margins between Trump and Biden. So this whole idea of, you can't continue making all these promises to people and then you get in there and say, well, it's me or it's Donald Trump. Just be glad you're not with Donald Trump.
A presidential term. I think if she just continues to go out there and just be honest with the American people, I think it'll resonate.
Angela Rye, what do you think has to be done in the next 12 days?
I think that honesty is imperative right now. I think there was a remarkable moment that you actually just showed from last night's town hall with you, Anderson, where you asked Kamala Harris if Donald Trump was a fascist. And she said, yes, I do. There's been more heat from the media on her answer and less attention paid to what his former White House chief of staff said, John Kelly, that he is in fact a fascist. When you look at one-party rule, religious nationalism, ethnic nationalism, that is what Donald Trump is striving for. And if we're honest, that is what the Republican Party writ large has been building toward for a long time. Donald Trump, as Harry Reid once said, is merely the Republican Party's Frankenstein. I remember being on this network, Anderson. I'm sure you don't. You do quite a few interviews, but I was on with you when Donald Trump was...
I remember my interviews with you. You were great.
No. I'm just going to reference one specific. It has been a while, but in 2016, I remember being on air with you and saying that Donald Trump was racist. And there was immediate blowback. How could you say he's racist? What facts do you have? There is a laundry list of facts to support the fact that this man traffics in racism and he is a fascist. And I think...
Let me pause. So when it comes to the race issue, why is it that Donald Trump is gaining support among Black young men and Latino young men? Because what I think is interesting is like, you're going to call it out on both sides, because we can go all through Joe Biden's statements, his history, his remarks. Charlemagne the God is sitting right there in the studio with Anderson Cooper, and Joe Biden looked him in the face and told him, if you have to figure out if you're going to vote for me or Donald Trump, you ain't Black. The same guy who sat up there and said he didn't want his kids to go to a racial jungle. So we want to bring the race. Come on, let's bring it, Angela. Let's bring the race element into this. Let's talk about how Joe Biden sat up there and shook hands and was buddy with Byrd and Strom Thurmond and wrote the racist ass crime bills to attack Black people. So here's the thing I think we need to start pointing out. This is not to say that Trump doesn't have problematic when it comes to race. This is not to say that Trump is not problematic there either. But what has been brought to my attention recently by those of you on call-in, we have these conversations, is that it's interesting that one has created legislation which has directly impacted the Black community, and the other has taken out an ad against the Central Park Five. I don't agree with Donald Trump taking out that ad. I really didn't think it was his place to say whether or not somebody should be executed or in prison or not. That's just how I feel about that. Stay out of that. I don't think that was his place at all. When we look at legislation, who has done more harm to the Black community? Joe Biden wrote bills that directly attack the Black community. That's not, you can't point your finger and put that on Donald Trump. So Angela, if you can sit there and you can say that Donald Trump is a racist, surely you would be willing to say that Joe Biden's a racist. So he was so much of a racist that he was willing to write legislation to hurt your people. Legislation. We all remember that speech. I don't care if they had a rough upbringing. I don't care where they came from. All I know is they're trying to rob my mother. Remember that speech on the House floor? Crime Bill Joe. And just because he picked Kamala Harris doesn't mean he doesn't still have some of those same inherent beliefs. Just because he was Obama's vice president doesn't mean he doesn't have some of those same beliefs deep inside. We didn't talked about this on this show before. There is overt racism and there's covert racism. Don't get it twisted. White liberals can be just as racist, but they usually do it in a more covert way.
I think the most important thing that we all can do as American citizens, that the media can do, is ensure that we are calling a thing a thing. We know what it is. We see what it is. It is not just the responsibility of the candidates in the race to tell the truth. God forbid one of them ever even touches the truth. But it's really it's important that we lean into that responsibility right now.
You know, Angela raises a good point, Charlemagne, and I'm going to flip it a little bit. I think that her saying that she believes Donald Trump is a fascist got a lot of headlines because it was the first time that she said it. She's been going on for days saying Mark Milley said he's a fascist. This person said this. You raised the question of authenticity in your interview with her, and that was an authentic moment where she says, "Yeah, I do think he's a fascist," and I think that's why it had a reaction. You know, Donald Trump, he, you know. For whatever you think about him, if you like him, if you hate him, he is certainly who he is. He's showing us who he is every single day.
Yeah, which is a fascist. And it's crazy because you still don't have news networks having that conversation. Yeah. Like when somebody says, when somebody questions Kamala Harris's blackness or is he a DEI hire, y'all will have roundtable discussions about that, asking that question. How come you're not having roundtable discussions asking, is Donald Trump a fascist?
Pause. So you know why they're talking about whether or not Kamala Harris is a Black woman or DEI? Because that's what the Democratic Party started to push. The moment it was announced that she was taking Joe Biden's place in this race and that she was the Democrat nominee, which again, nobody voted for Kamala Harris in a 2024 Democrat primary. I don't know how many times I have to say this. She was selected. We didn't vote for her. The moment she entered the race, you have to remember, what did the Democratic Party say? What did Bakari Sellers say? What did Dem leadership say? We could have the first Black woman, a Black woman, Black woman, Black woman, first Black woman, Black woman. That's what they said. That's what you led with. That's why people are having roundtable discussions about it. Nobody would have even brought this up. You brought it up. The party brought it up. You didn't have to mention that she was a this, that. Instead of talking about her qualifications, instead of talking about her record and all this jazz, you led with that. And that's why people are having those conversations about it. The fascist thing, again, is not a winning point. I really don't think these strategists, and Angela Rye is a strategist, these Democrat strategists understand that the fascist term is not a selling point. That doesn't make people say, oh my God, he's a fascist. I gotta support Kamala. A lot of those people are more likely to stay home. That's not a selling point. And just tell me something. Tell me something. If that's a selling point, why is he doing as well as he's doing? If that's working for you, if that's working for Kamala, why is he doing as well as he's doing? Why is he polling higher than he was before? People just, So now he's mad at Anderson Cooper.
Actually, not even asking it, stating it. I mean, when you look at the things that he's talking about doing, jailing journalists, jailing his political opponents, turning the military on American citizens. The guy that
Jailing journalists. So is the Biden-Harris administration. The Biden-Harris administration also has been targeting journalists. The Biden-Harris administration, Charlemagne don't know shit. The Biden-Harris administration targeted 3 black socialists, the Uhuru 3. The Biden-Harris administration is trying to censor and silence journalists and has been trying to do so since they took office in 2021. What are you talking about? You don't know shit. This is what I've been trying to tell you guys. He's get up here and he wrote this book and yada yada and all this stuff. Don't even know what he talking about. None of it. None. And this is who they bring on for political commentary. He doesn't know.
you want to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. How come that is not the topic of discussion on networks like CNN every day?
But do you think that, I mean, you were raising this with Kamala Harris about her own authenticity, about her own willingness to just, you know, say things that aren't crafted. Do you think she needs to do more of that? You know, Trump's going to go. Trump's going to go. Apparently, Trump's going on is going to tape a thing with Joe Rogan. Do you think she should do that?
I think that she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I think that Americans need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking about electing somebody who's talking about putting people in camps. I don't know why why we want to elect somebody who's talking about mass deportation. I don't know why.
Charlemagne, you are completely out of touch with everyday people. First of all, should she go on Joe Rogan? His response is, I think she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. I don't think that is working. And why are you going to Charlemagne the God for political advice? If that was working, the polls wouldn't be the way that they are. If that was working, she wouldn't be decreasing. She wouldn't be decreasing in the polls. What the hell is wrong with people? Yes, she should go on Joe Rogan's show. And I'm not a Joe Rogan stan or anything like that. But that's an audience that she is not exposed to. She should go on the Joe Rogan show. I think she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. Yes, because that's working so well. Ay. Then he mentions mass deportations. He doesn't know why someone wants to vote for someone who wants to do mass deportations. Really, Charlemagne? The Breakfast Club is in New York, correct? New York City, right? So Charlemagne's just going to sit here and pretend like he don't know anything about the migrant situation in New York City, what Eric Adams was dealing with, and Eric Adams was very public about it. He's just going to sit here and pretend like this ain't a thing. And he don't understand why people want to support. Get out of here, man. Get out of here.
Why we're having this conversation about somebody who wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. Aren't we supposed to be a patriotic country? Whenever somebody like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee in this country, everybody talks about, oh, that's so unpatriotic. But a guy can say he wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election and nobody cares. Like even me bringing it up now, you brought it back to Kamala and Joe Rogan. Anderson?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn?
Nobody cares, Charlemagne, because people don't trust the government. People don't trust the system. That's why people don't care. No, people don't care. They really don't. You guys were the ones in corporate media that continued to talk about January 6th. The rest of us, everyday people, had moved on with our lives. If you go to the hood and ask people, man, you see what happened on January 6th? Most everybody look at you and be like, and? People dealing with real life shit. People more concerned about paying their bills, getting things done. The average American is not thinking about it. That's the thing. It's people like you and your classist circles. You guys are the ones focusing on that because you ain't got to worry about anything else. People who are trying to put bills on the people are trying to put food on the table. People who are living paycheck to paycheck, they're the ones worrying about real life issues. They don't have time to sit here and worry about, oh man, but January 6th, like it happened. And those people moved on with their lives. You guys are the ones that continue talking about it because you ain't got no concerns. You're not struggling for anything.
I mean, I think you give damn who's elected president, and
Yeah,
I'm
especially
asking
if that
you.
president is a fascist. That's talking about putting people in camps. That's talking about, once again, terminating the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. That's talking about, jailing his political opponents. Like, that rhetoric doesn't scare people?
Well, the rhetoric from Netanyahu don't scare you. I mean, you want to talk about putting people in camps. And when we talk about Gaza, and I know Mark Lamont Hill went on to the Breakfast Club and gave you a whole history lesson about Palestinian people and how they were occupied and oppressed. They were in an open or outdoor concentration camp. That's what they were in, an open air prison. So the Biden-Harris administration was supporting that. All these administrations were supporting that. That didn't happen overnight. Those people been occupied. So this is why people lose me with this mess, man. People lose me with this.
We talk about this every single. This is what
I don't think
I've been
y'all
talking
talk
about this
enough.
every night.
I don't think y'all have enough conversations about it. I feel like I heard more on this network about is Kamala Harris black than I do about, Donald Trump being a fascist.
Well,
am I wrong, Angela?
Honestly, that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Oh, I like that.
That's no,
Go
that
ahead,
is
Anderson.
that. No, I'm not. Look, I'm a huge fan of yours.
Okay.
But to say that we're sitting around discussing is Kamala Harris black, like
I've seen that. I've seen those
that's
roundtable
definitely
discussions
on.
a lot. Now,
That's
that's
true.
bullshit, Anderson. For you to say that y'all don't have those conversations.
I've never asked.
What does this matter? What does this matter? Do you see? Does everybody get this? Who cares? And I done said this before. I said, people, we've had this conversation before about whether or not she's black. We've talked about what her father said. At the end of the day, whether Kamala Harris is black or not, that doesn't help her win this election. This is part of the problem. Part of the reason why Kamala Harris isn't doing as well as you guys thought she would is because you guys are focusing on this superficial stuff instead of focusing on what she would be like as a leader. I think I hit my ring light. What she would be like as a leader. That's why. I mean, why? Why does this matter? And to be honest, when we talk about the Breakfast Club, you guys talked about it too, Charlemagne. You talked about whether or not she was black or not. Instead of focusing on what is really happening.
Somebody is.
I'm not saying
Kamala
you.
Harris.
I said the
Not you.
network.
He said the network.
I don't think anyone I don't think any anchor on this network has been going around saying, "Is she black?"
Y'all have never
It's
had
definitely.
we have had. Look, I'm sure we have had, nutty people or people who have strongly held beliefs who I may disagree with, who somewhere on some panel have said something, but
Yeah.
I will just
But
speak up for what I do on the show. I do believe it's important to get people different viewpoints as long as they're willing to have a legitimate conversation. What I don't like are surrogates who come out and just spout talking points that they don't even believe. And those are people I tried to eliminate from having ever on the air again.
I think no network has honest conversations about Donald Trump. Nobody's had honest conversations about Donald Trump since 2016. I saw last.
Pause. He's lying. The number of times I can turn on CNN or MSNBC and hear them talking about Donald Trump, I lose count. Just Morning Joe was just recently comparing Donald Trump to Hitler. They were just recently, Mika was calling Donald Trump Hitler. What are you talking about, Charlemagne? The hell are you talking about? If CNN and MSNBC, if you feel they are focusing heavily on Kamala Harris, that's because she is the underdog. People don't want to admit this, but this is the reality. She is the underdog. She was selected to be the nominee. Nobody voted for her. She's the one that has the most to prove. Everybody know who Donald Trump is. He ain't got to prove anything. She has to introduce herself to Americans. A lot of people said they don't know who she is. So if they're talking about her, it's because she has the most to prove. And the reality is, Charlemagne is friends with Kamala Harris. So he's there to stick up for his friend. But just because she's your friend doesn't mean that people can't criticize her. And part of the reason why people are criticizing her as heavily as they are is because she was selected. This is who they chose. Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. This is who, well, not Obama, put him back to the side. Obama wanted an open primary. Joe Biden went ahead and endorsed Kamala Harris despite Obama. You know, some things happening behind the scenes. But the reality is that this is who they chose. This is who they wanted. No one voted for her. So the reason why, part of the reason she is going to have a more difficult time is because she was selected. And Charlemagne knows this. Ay, ay, ay.
Last night, they were talking about, you know, the double standard that exists between Donald Trump and the vice president. But it's always a double standard with Trump, whether it's with Hillary, whether it's, you know, against Biden, now with Kamala. We talk about him being a threat to democracy, but we don't treat him like one.
I mean, I don't know what you've been watching, but like, I don't know of any Trump supporters out there or people who like him who are tuning in to me every night to try to get, you know, to be validated in their opinions. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I disagree.
I don't think it's about validating. What you mean, validating the Trump?
Well, you're saying like that we're not, that I guess you're saying I'm not discussing all the things he is saying and doing and pointing it out and talking to, you know, what John Kelly, I mean, this has been discussed. There's nobody, let me just say, there is nobody on the planet who has not heard and seen pretty much everything Donald Trump has said and knows.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Well, knows who he is, whether they believe it or not, whether they care or not.
When the vice president said that to you last night, she said, "I don't think enough people know." I 100% believe enough people have not heard his rhetoric. What do you think, Angela?
That is a damn lie. Come on. When Donald Trump was running for president in 2016, even Fox News at that point, even Fox News was against Donald Trump. A lot of people forget that. What did everybody focus on? His rhetoric. What did Hillary Clinton focus on? His rhetoric. What did CNN and MSNBC? What did they all focus on? His rhetoric. What are you talking about that nobody knows about this? It seems like to me the only person that hasn't been paying attention is Charlemagne.
I was just about to say, can y'all tag me in? I'm never doing this remote with y'all ever again.
Angela, yes. It's the problem of being on satellite. Yes.
I know, it is the problem. No, I was just going to say, you know, I think what you're saying is fair, that there have been roundtable discussions where y'all raised this. I think the problem is it would be nice for, you know, you to cut the camera and say, I'm looking right here, right now. Y'all, Kamala Harris is a black woman.
Right,
let's move right along.
Yeah,
but I was going to say to your colleagues' credit, Jake, right after the town hall yesterday, he said that you all had the opportunity to critique what Kamala Harris' policy proposals were, what her positions were, what her recommendations were, whether or not she answered her question fair enough, because ta-da, she's the only one that showed up for the town hall. Yeah. It was supposed to be a debate. He said that. I think that the point is we don't hear those things enough, and it has been a threat. We cannot say, oh, you know, Kamala is going on with Joe Rogan, or no, I'm sorry, Donald Trump is going on with Joe Rogan, but Kamala's choosing Club Shay Shay. Debate it. Like it's like, what is he going to say when he goes on? Here's
what I've been saying, which is it is a double standard because Kamala Harris has policies and she talks about her policies. And you may think she doesn't talk in detail enough about her policies, and plenty do. And I pushed her on that last night. I quizzed. I try to look at the policies from different, but she's got stated policies and you can look them up. Donald Trump does not have policies.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Donald Trump does have policies on his platform. So here we go with the exaggeration again, right? This is what I hate about the two-party system, but I want to say this. First of all, let me tell you what this is really about. This is about the town hall. They are upset because they feel that Anderson Cooper was too harsh with Kamala Harris last night with the town hall. And let's keep it real. The feedback from the town hall was not good. And the feedback from the town hall, even on CNN, was not good for Kamala Harris. That's what this is about. They're mad at Anderson Cooper because they feel like you pressed her too hard. You weren't giving her softball questions. I don't know what to say. How do you lose a debate with yourself? When she debated Donald Trump, she was very confident. Like during that debate, we watched it live. She was confident during that debate when she was debating Donald Trump. And for some reason, during the town hall, when it was just her, she just did not seem as confident. And the reason why Anderson Cooper kept asking her follow-up questions is because she wasn't answering the question. So that's something she has to work on. That's not Anderson Cooper's fault. I can't believe I'm defending Anderson Cooper here. God damn, Charlemagne, look what you done done.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and we say, I mean, this is nothing new. We talk about this all the time. He
Yeah.
doesn't have,
I agree
he
with
does
you.
not have, his policy, in the 2016, his policy for Iraq was taking Iraq's oil by using U.S. soldiers to surround the oil fields
That's right.
and extract the oil somehow and bring it to America. I mean, literally, and I was like, that's not a thing. So that's been going on now. That's what
you just
nobody,
did. What you just did is what I would like to hear more pundits do, because a lot of times we ask
But
he's
ask
a host.
answers.
All right,
like
but
we say things like,
but let me
"Do
tell
you think Donald Trump is a fascist?" Like I think we kind of got
But
enough
you know
evidence
what?
to know that answer.
I'm not a pundit. I'm not interested.
See, they already getting ready for it. Let's blame Anderson Cooper and CNN if Kamala Harris loses.
I don't think my opinion is particularly interesting for viewers out there. I'm interested in
I disagree.
Well, okay, you can quibble with it.
I disagree with that too,
You can
Anderson.
quibble with it. But I believe in asking questions and probing people's arguments and trying to reveal people's arguments, what's true and what's not. And I'm not on MSNBC for a reason. I'm not on some other network for a reason. I'm on CNN because I want to talk to Republicans. I want to talk to Democrats, and I want to learn from them. I don't think I have the answers. I'm willing to change my mind. People can convince me of stuff all the time. I'm not I don't even know why I'm talking about myself. I don't even know what I'm talking about myself.
No, but Anderson,
But
I
my
want
point
to
is,
tell you this.
I think what we're doing here is important because
It
I
is
do
so
think in this
important.
country where, you know what, I got so many, I don't look at comments about myself, but I was looking up some comments about my grief podcast, and I came across this whole inundation from people who are Harris supporters saying to me online today, like, how dare you, what a betrayal that you would ask her these questions.
No,
and
you
I'm
did
like,
your job.
you misunderstand what my job is. I'm not on MSNBC, and no disrespect. What they do is they're very talented.
No, I caught shade to MSNBC twice, Anderson. You threw shade to MSNBC twice.
But I don't watch it. I'm not interested in watching what these overpaid blow-dried anchors think, and I include myself in that overpaid blow-dried, although I don't blow-dry. I am overpaid. But I'm not interested in the anchor's opinion. I'm interested in facts and letting the viewers make up their own mind. So anyway, I'm sorry this devolved into something else, but this is
I like
fascinating.
that you said that, but I will just say in this moment, some of what we're talking about tonight, Anderson, is not actually an opinion at all. It is just the facts. And you are one of the most trusted voices on television.
Trusted by who? Oh my God. Oh,
And it
God.
is important in those moments where you know those conversations devolve into nonsense, particularly on the other side of the aisle.
right.
They're conspiracy theory. They won't even say her name right. That has to be checked in
Oh,
the
my
moment because that
God.
is what fascism looks
Stop.
like. That is how we start sliding
Stop.
down a very slippery slope, and we cannot afford to be here. The election is 12 days away, and this should not be even what is on the ballot. But
That's not our responsibility, Angela. It's not our responsibility about the election being so many days away. It's not our responsibility really to get Kamala Harris elected. That's her campaign's job, right? Like they're supposed to be taking care of that, not us. I think I have a camera thing going on here. Hold up. Something happened. I don't know what happened. Okay, there we go. It's really not our responsibility. That's just all I got to say about that. Because my whole thing is that they're trying to find a place to put the blame, and I'm going to show you why. This was reported earlier this morning. Everybody needs to check this out. Behind the curtain, Dems fear they're blowing it. Here it is. Behind the curtain, Dems fear they are blowing it. A growing number of top Democrats tell us privately they feel Vice President Harris will lose, even though polls show a coin toss finish 11 days from now. See, I told you guys about the internal data, and we're going to look at a little bit of that tonight, is very revealing. It says right here, Democrats spent $1 billion, nearly twice as much as Republicans over the past 3 months, to polish her image and soil former President Trump's. Trump and allied committees raised about half Harris's total, $92 million from October 1st to October 16th. And this is after Trump's cringy 40-minute on-stage sway to 80s music, etc. And it goes into that here. But this is the part. Between the lines, we're not saying Harris is losing or will lose. An earlier behind the curtain column spelled out why this is a toss-up in America. But it goes on to say here what we're hearing. In a troubling sign for the campaign, top Democrats are already starting to point fingers at who'd be responsible for a Harris loss. President Biden for dragging his feet, or Kamala Harris herself going down. A top Democratic official texted. So does everybody see? Democrats fear she made too many different cases against Donald Trump and still hasn't fully revealed herself to voters who crave to know more. She is who she is. One longtime Democratic strategist said, let's hope it is enough. That's why they're freaking out. So they want to blame Anderson. And Anderson is what it is, but it's insane. You have to start pointing the fingers at Kamala Harris and her advisor, whoever the hell is advising her, because it ain't looking good.